All right, calling in from Missoula to the Daily Interlake Sports Now is the one and only Fritz Neighbor of the Daily Interlake. Fritz and I both spent most of our last weekend covering the Western AA basketball tournament at Flathead High School. Fun stuff, action-packed weekend. That being said, we put together an all-Western AA tournament team to highlight the awesome play on display here in Kalispell. Real quick, big thank you to Flathead High School for all the fun. Big kudos to all the coaches and athletes involved. That being said, thanks for joining me, Fritz. Just kind of your thoughts on the tourney, and we'll dive into the lists.
Oh, yeah, it was fun. And, I like doing these. It's always fun to do an all-tournament team. If I felt better, I might have organized it better on Saturday and then had something for you yesterday. But you and I got our heads together. We got, I think we got a pretty good list. We agreed on the MVPs, and let's go at it.
Yeah, awesome. We'll start out with the boys. And that being said about the MVP, I think it's funny that you put we were on the same page right off the bat. For the boys, Hellgate, Connor Dick led that team to the Western AA title, threw down a couple monster slam dunks throughout the tournament, but just overall dictated the tempo. One of those guys, every time stepped on the court, you knew the other team needed to stop him. Guy was a force. Next up, Cohen Costello, Glacier, the Dennis Rodman of the Valley, we could say. But, I mean, just a rebounding machine, absolute animal on the boards, and relentless on both sides of the ball. Next up, Hudson Lukey. Did I say that right, Lukey?
Yeah, that's right, Lukey.
Yeah, Lukey. Freshman, extremely impressive player. This is a kid that I can't wait to see grow over the next couple years. High basketball IQ for his age. Son of a coach, so you could see that, but just really impressive for a freshman. Next up, guy we both agreed on the list here, Donovan Headswift of Hellgate. I kind of saw him as that kind of do-it-all guy in the middle who just does the dirty work, hits the mid-range jumper, but he'll guard the other team's big, get rebounds, never really gives up. Just a guy every kind of winner needs to have on that team. Next up, Josiah Quaresma of Big Sky. Just a guy who can score nonstop, walking bucket type of guy.
Smooth guy.
Yep, definitely.
You'd say it's charismatic. Charisma is how you say it.
There we go. Charisma. You could say it's charisma. I like that. All right. Next up, we do have Ty Olson of Glacier, kind of the one who makes that ship go, ball in his hands a lot of the time, kind of point forward, you could almost say. And then last up, Jay Stenson of Butte. Guy's just relentless scorer as well. It seems like every time he touches the ball, he's looking to get a bucket, and he helped lead Butte to a run to the state. So impressive stuff. Yeah, Fritz, just kind of your thoughts on the list, and then we'll kind of dive into the honorable mentions there.
Yeah, you and I were both there on Friday when Connor Dick got those 2 steals, and he had a really impressive dunk right off the bat, and then he had an impressive dunk square on the second one. I thought he got fouled in the second one. They didn't call it. Just a great left-handed drive to the basket. I think everybody knows which way he wants to go, but they really have a hard time stopping him. And he just, he didn't have huge numbers, 15, 21, and 11, but it seemed like if they needed a bucket, then he got it for him.
Yeah, definitely. And they played a real team-centric style. You could tell well-coached. And I did think it was funny. You mentioned he got the steal on the dunk. I knew he was about to do something special because I saw the whole bench jump up, and I was like, oh, he's throwing this one down, and of course he did. But, no, that was fun. But they felt it coming. They knew their guy was feeling it. And, yeah, no, easily for me, he was the MVP. And like you said, not the biggest numbers, but like you said, when they needed a go-to guy, he was that guy down the stretch.
Yeah, and then, we talked about Costello, and you took over for me Friday night because I was a little under the weather, and thank you for that. But I didn't realize until today he had 18 rebounds in that Friday night semifinal win. You move on to Lukey. His dad played at Ronan High and used to bank in 3-pointers. That's how old I am. Saw his dad play. I'm on to the legacy players now at my age. And Headswift, we both agree there. Good around the basket, kind of did the dirty work. Tyleson did Tyleson things. He's just kind of just a beast out there at the point. Charisma's so smooth. Stenson poured in big points for Butte. It's pretty easy to agree on those 7. And then we had a bunch of guys get honorable mention because, well, it's just a bunch of good players in that divisional.
Yeah, it was extremely talented. It felt like they could have gone so many different ways. As far as the honorable mentions, I'll read some of them off here. We had Asher Top of Hellgate, Cameron Guernsey of Butte, who I watched have one monster performance for sure. He took over a game in the fourth quarter. I think he had like 13 points. Hayden O'Peats of Capital, just One of those guys, does the dirty work, attacks the glass. Could tell his impact was felt. Easton Sant of Hellgate, he was kind of one of those guys who under the radar, but it also felt like whenever they needed a big shot, came up, hit a three, made a clutch free throw. Just they trusted him with the ball in his hands. Noah Dowler of Glacier, local kid. He's one of those guys I feel like kind of similar guys we've mentioned on the list, but you can't look at the stat sheet and see his impact because he does so much defending the rim, making guys kind of rethink what they're doing in the paint. He just has a big impact beyond the box score. Lieberg of Helena, he's a guy who I was ready to put him on the list just based off pure kind of shot-making ability. He was really impressive, could get his own bucket whenever he wanted, but teams were dialing in on him, and he still found a way, so that's always impressive. Another local kid, Noah Cummings of Flathead. Flathead, they didn't get the most wins. They didn't get the wins they wanted. They didn't have the most success. But Cummings, there's no denying the talent there. He had some big moments in that first game versus Hellgate. Late in the first quarter, he had a buzzer beater in that one. So the flashes are there. The talent's definitely there. And then two more guys, Mario Roseman of Hellgate, another guy who just impact was felt the whole time. Feels like Hellgate just plays team basketball. Glacier, same thing, really. But last up, Nick Michelotti of Capital, another one of those big 6'4", 6'5" guys, making plays on the perimeter, plays around the rim. So, yeah, no, I mean, it was extremely talented, like you said. So much great basketball being played. And really, it was kind of a blur. I'm glad we put this list together because it was able to put it all in perspective, how much great talent we got to watch right here in the Valley. Fun stuff.
Right, and then I kind of feel bad because Glacier's kind of the same thing as Hellgate. They play great team ball. They have so many shooters. And, they play second, so we figured out three that we could get on the list. They probably had 2 or 3 more guys that really had an impact, to get them to the title game. And, Dowler had 15 boards one game. Opitz is just a horse, and I had a hard time. Capital's defending champions, and they bowed out in 3 games. That's a little bit of a shocker. Same thing with Helena. I mean, Lieberg's so talented, but, you tend to reward the teams that get out of the divisional. So that's where we are.
Yeah, definitely. And like we said, just a lot of great team basketball being played with, like we said, with Glacier. It just feels like I talked to Coach Harkins a long time ago about this and had a quote in the paper, but just, they just always are looking for that next man up. They always are moving the ball. It doesn't, who's ever the hot hand, feed them. They don't have that one guy who, maybe taking over the game. It's just a full team-centric thing, and you love to see that. As far as the girls, if you're ready, we can move through that list, but great stuff with the boys, and shout out to all those mentioned and the honorable mentions as well.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right, so for the girls, we also agreed with the MVP here. Flathead's Kennedy Moore, local Valley kid, was balling out the whole time, had that 25-point semifinal performance, and similar to what we said about Connor Dick, just anytime Flathead needed somebody down the stretch, put the ball in their hands, make a play, get a rebound, whatever it was, Kennedy Moore stepped up and made those plays. Next up, Alex Colville of Hellgate, 6'6" center, absolute playmaker in the middle, had a triple-double based off of blocks. I believe it was like 26, 20, and 10 or something like that. I could be a little off, but remarkable stat line there. Next up, we have Chloe Larson, also of Hellgate. Hellgate, and like same thing with the boys' side, the girls as well. It just felt like they had so much contributors. Cadence Couture of Big Sky, just a hooper, absolute bucket getter. And then Olivia Huntsinger of Sentinel, maybe one of those players I look through the stats. The stats don't always jump out the most, but always in the middle of things, making plays, playing basketball the right way. Next up, Maddie Moy of Flathead, somebody who really just one of those players who anytime Flathead needed a big bucket or needed somebody to guard the other team's best player when they're getting hot, it seemed like Moy stepped up, made a play. Avery Decoy of Big Sky, also on the list. Big Sky was having a great tournament. I caught that game versus Hellgate. They were playing, and they really play hard, that Big Sky team. There was bodies flying all over the floor. It was fun. And then last up for our girls here, Avery Chouinard of Flathead, hit the game-winning buzzer beater to seal the deal for Flathead. And overall, another one of those players, maybe the stats aren't always the most crazy, but when you watch that team play, ball's in her hands a lot, kind of the de facto point guard maybe, and just high IQ players. So it's a solid list right there. We do have some honorable mentions as well. Akila Kubi of Flathead, Cadence Graham of Butte, who is a freshman, or excuse me, an 8th grader, which is remarkable. So watch out, State of Montana in a few years. She'll be taking over. Britton Stewart of Butte had a 36-point game in the tournament, which is balling out. We had Emily McElmurray of Sentinel, and then last up, Alex Bullock of Helena, who had a couple big double-doubles. So quite the list there. We agreed on a lot of things, and just kind of your thoughts on it all.
Yeah, it was a good get to put for you to add Alex, because I kind of forgot about Alex Bullock. She had the 16 rebound game. Emily McElmurray, she's a really good junior. She was a good sophomore last year. You knew she'd be good. And going back to the top, Kennedy Moore just had a huge tournament. I thought she played Alex Colville to pretty much standstill, had more block shots than Colville did in the final. For the tournament, she had 64 points, 26 boards, 7 blocks. That's quite a line. That's over 20 points a game. And she's a bucket. They needed points from somebody consistently, and she was the one. Colville's just such a force. Chloe Larson scored the last 7 points for Elgate after Colville fouled out. So you got to put her on there. Culture is so smooth, a lot like Charisma is on the Big Sky Boys team. You had to move. I think you had to move Avery Chouinard in there when that shot fell in to win it.
Yeah.
At the second time, Flathead's beaten Hellgate this year. Both have been a last-second shot on Flathead's home court. Kennedy Moore did it to him the first time. That shot by Chouinard and that clip you posted, that just amazing. I've watched it probably half a dozen times since Saturday night. Avery DeCoit, you failed to mention that she's a freshman, so she's going to be around a while. That's how old I am. Again, her dad played for the Grizz and for the football team. And, Maddie Moy, I think she was due for a big game, and she had a really good game when they needed her to have one the most against Hellgate in the championship. And, apologies to Kayla Kubi, but, she had a tip in that title game, and I think I've seen, maybe a handful of girls get off the floor and get a tip in at the high school level in Montana. Of course, I missed about 13 years of high school basketball while I covered the Grizz, but it just takes athleticism and talent. You don't see a lot of girls do that. A lot of female athletes do it at this level, at least in Montana. So that was amazing. Bryn Stewart, I think only one girl in beauty history has scored more points in the game than the 36 she had. And that girl played for the Lady Grizz and Eastern Washington. So that's quite a list, a little bit tighter than the boys' list was. And we agreed on a lot more. And I like it. And Kennedy Moore, deserving MVP.
Yeah, well said. Definitely deserving MVP. I like how you mentioned she did go right at Alex Colville of Hellgate. That was something I kind of going into the game was thinking about, because I know Kennedy Moore likes to let it rip, shoots the ball, doesn't afraid, and hey, took it right at her, and they both were going at it. It was a great contest, but you saw that confidence on display, and that goes a long way. Definitely going to be fun to watch her for another year at Flathead and see what they do at state. As far as kind of just, Fritz, just kind of want to get your thoughts on the tournament as a whole. Like you said, that Flathead game winner, I mean, that'll be the talk of the town for a while for me. Same here. I've watched that video so many times already. It's kind of a little morning jolt, crowd going wild. I mean, that's really what it's all about. As somebody who loves sports, I mean, doesn't get much better than that. Just kind of your reaction to the tournament as a whole, the game winner, and just thoughts on the Western AA tournament wrapping up. A heck of a weekend of basketball.
It's been a long time, or it had been a long time until a couple of years ago, since I've seen any kind of divisional tournament or much of a state tournament, but I love divisionals. And for a long time, AA didn't even have them. They had playing games. So they reintroduced them, and man, it's been so much fun. I had such a great time. Wish I'd felt better, but still had a good time. Hospitality room was great. Bryce Wilson got us stats. Shout out to Josh Mowat for taking care of us, and can't wait to do it again this week.
Yeah, no, well said, Fritz. Couldn't have said any better myself. Really, everyone at Flathead chipped in. They did such a great job. It was really like clockwork. You look over, they got the stats ready for you. I mean, it was really impressive, and it made the tournament just that much more special. I mean, it was a great time. Shout out to all the athletes involved, and shout out to, you and all the other, everybody else there covering it, because we had quite the weekend as well. It's kind of nonstop. It's like, I love basketball, but I joked, I might not want to hear basketball dribble for another couple days. I'm joking, but awesome stuff, Fritz. If there's anything else you want to throw out there, feel free. If not, thank you so much for the time, and yeah, just a heck of a weekend of hoops, and I'm glad we had a chance to break it down.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. Thanks again, Josh. We'll talk again.
All right. Thank you, Fritz. Talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Yep.
All righty. Thanks. already, y'all. The one and only Fritz Neighbor of the Daily Interlake. I mean, really, just an epic weekend of basketball. That's the easiest way to put it. I was there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday most of the day. Caught the semifinal games Friday. Then Saturday, we had the championships games featuring Glacier on the boys' side, Flathead on the girls' side. And it was just awesome. Last thing I'll mention as far as, you know, these all-tournament teams and who made the team and who didn't, there was a lot of talent on display in this tournament. It was hard to sort through it all, so there is some names who were left off the list that definitely were worthy. Like we mentioned, there's a couple of these teams as well where they play such team-centric basketball. Unless you watch it in person, it's hard to break down the stat lines and say, oh, this person is the star of the team or whatever. Just doesn't always work like that, as we know. Well-coached team basketball being played here in the Western AA bracket. It was really impressive. And, you look at Hellgate on the boys' side and Glacier on the boys' side, both had multiple guys making an impact, and there was names that didn't even make the list who easily could have. And on the girls' side, same thing as well. It took multiple contributors. Flathead, I think that 4 kind of core players that we mentioned here, you remove any of those players, who knows where that team is? Hellgate, you move 1 or 2 pieces, who knows where? So it's awesome to see such team-centric, selfless basketball being played here, and gotta love it. It was great, and like Fritz said, just shout out Flathead, shout out everyone involved. Thank you guys for making it great. All right, thank you everyone for checking this one out. As always, the show is brought to you by Nomad GCS. Check them out at nomadgcs.com. I'm your boy Josh Dugan. This was epic. Got the Grizz and the Bobcats going in the Big Sky tournament this week. We'll keep you updated there soon, but a lot of prep basketball to dive through. Had to get our man Fritz on here, and soon enough we'll get back to all the Big Sky stuff as well and the rest of the state tournament action. So thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and enjoy.